Savvy Business Radio runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina at savvybusinessradio.com.
SexyBossInc.com is a vision and mission of Heather Havenwood. Ms. Havenwood's personal life mission is to empower 100 million women in their journey to owning their talent, self-confidence, and self-reliance through entrepreneurship education. Today, she shares the power of podcasting to help grow your business. Find out more and visit SexyBossInc.com.
Hi, Heather. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. I'm so excited to have you out here today to share your wonderful wisdom. You are a tremendous business owner helping entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, get savvy, learn how to sell and grow their business. But you are also, you have your radio show, and you also started by going on as many radio shows strategically and podcasts to build your platform, to build your credibility, but you did it in a way that a lot of people who do it don't get the same results you did. Share a little bit about that. For one, your story of being an entrepreneur and helping women. Number two, how you use the power of podcasting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christine, for having me. Savvy, the Savvy Girl, the Sexy Boss and Savvy Girl together. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
So I have a book called Sexy Boss. It's about the empowerment of women. It's changing the rule book for money, success, and sex. And I did the book in 2013, and I did it for myself, right? So I didn't do it in a way where I'm going to create this book, I'm going to become famous or something. It was really about my personal story. It's a personal story of how I built a business from $0 to $1 million and then literally lost everything, bankrupt, foreclosure, everything in 2006 and 2007. I had to really find my way back. And how did I do that? And so I wrote my personal story. And it's also my view on how women are literally beating the big boys in business, but they don't know they are, right? So I'm giving them that empowerment that, hey, you are beating people. You are beating yourself by way of beating other people in business. And it's okay to say that, you know? So one thing I did in 2013 is I started the Sexy Boss podcast, and it failed miserably.
Wow.
So I did like 5 interviews of girlfriends. I put it all at the same day. And then it just like, I didn't know what I was doing. Let's just put it that way. I no clue of the medium. I didn't understand the medium. I didn't understand it. It was a really bad intro and outro, like that. So I thought, well, forget podcasting. I'm not doing this. This is stupid. So it failed. And so I'm not going back to that. I put my tail between my legs and went off. In fact, you can find the Sexy Boss show, what I call in the graveyard of iTunes. Just feel free. And it's got this really cheesy intro, but I diverse. So back in 2013 and then back in 2015, I had a friend of mine reach out and say, hey, I want you on my podcast. And I was like, what's that? And so I got interviewed by him. And a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from a potential client, ended up being a $5,000 client. And wow. I thought, 30 minutes. $5,000.
Not bad.
Right? My little connection in my head was like, that sounds cool. Yeah. So I thought, okay, how do I do this podcast thing? How do I become a guest first? So I really focused, like, I am only going to be a guest. I'm not going to have my own show. I'm 100% going to get on other people's show and add value. Like, that's my job. My job is to hear on your audience, your show, right? Because it's your show. It's not my show. It's yours. And my job is to add value to your listeners. So I just focus. And then between August of 2015 through now, we're talking early 2017, first quarter. And I've been on over 220-ish shows at this point. Now, I don't say that to brag, but I say that because I learned something. I learned how to share my story. I learned the art of a conversation, right? It's not a monologue. This is a conversation. Yes. You're welcome to interrupt me anytime. I think people forget that. They just want to have the host be quiet and have them just get to talk like a monologue or something. And that's not what it is. It's really a personal story. It's really intimate. And I learned a couple of other things. So that's kind of the art of what I started. And I'm actually coming out with a book about the power of guesting and how I think all entrepreneurs should get on radio podcasting. I'm kind of, those are interchangeable right now, a little bit in my world. And the reason I think everyone should, all business owners should, is because sharing their personal story is pretty powerful. Yeah. And it helps people connect with them. They're not just a dentist. They're not just a vet. Mm-hmm. Why did they start? You know, what was their story? What had them say, I want to be a veterinarian or a dentist or chiropractor, whatever it is. So I think it's a really good that you offer this and you allow people the opportunity to share their story and connect with them.
Yes. And I love the title of your new book, The Power of Guesting. It's perfect because I find so many people are saying, oh, I just want to start my own show. I just have to start my own show because it's going to be the way I'm going to explode. And it's just like the beginning when we all thought if we put up our website, bam, all these clients would come flying through the door. And then we're just sitting here, crickets, nothing. And it's like, that's the first step. Great. You have a website. Now what? You have to go get clients to come look at it or people to even know it exists and target the right market. And the same thing with building a podcast. There's so much involved. And we talked about this in our chat before we even had our interview, that a lot of people are not aware of how much work goes into creating a broadcast of any sort. And now we're even doing a video TV series that we're putting on Roku TV, and it's tremendous amount of, not just editing, but getting ready for the show, studying up for the client so we know who we're interviewing with and we can actually help promote them and get their word out there. And people aren't really aware of all the background work behind that. And then when they get started, like you said, often it fails. And then the other option is, okay, I'm going to go on other people's show, and they don't really think it out. They just go on any show that they're invited to go on, but they're not really strategically using that site or using their story that would best, and as we said before the interview, give value to the audience. And then at the same time, allow people to know who they really are and why they should even care about them.
Yeah. Let me share one thing, what adding your story to people is not. Let me tell you what it's not. And what your story is not, it's not your resume. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could go through my resume. I started in business in 1995. And I mean, that's boring. Like, no one knows. People want to hear the stories behind the athlete, right? We want to hear the story behind of how they become an NFL player. We want to hear the story of how the dentist became a dentist. Like, what was that all about, right?
Yeah.
What is he doing there? Why is he doing that? Why did they create the software? We want to hear the bloodiness or at least the struggle or the conversations that went in their head. I mean, who wants to hear a story? I woke up when I was 3 years old. I wanted to be a dentist. Now I am.
And not only that, no one can relate to that. They're like, who cares?
Yeah, no one can relate to that. Like, you can relate to the fact that my first declared major in college was accounting. What? If you know me at all, you're like, what? That makes no sense, right? People like, accounting, you sure about that? Like, yeah, I was declared major in accounting, and my first semester, I failed. I failed out at Baylor University. I got the letter that says, you are failed out of college. You have to move on to community college, which I did, and then went back to university. But you can relate to that. People can go, oh, maybe I didn't fail out, but I can relate to that, relate to going in the wrong declared major. And then I went to pre-med. Well, that was a disaster, right? Yeah. So I actually ended up getting a degree that I literally made up. I am not lying. Yeah. I went to the dean, and I said, Dean, I got to graduate. I got to get out of here. He's like, let's make up it was a woman. Let's make up your degree. Let's look at everything you had. And remember, I had like 4 or 5 declared majors. People can relate to this. And you have all this crazy crap, right? It's one big mixing bowl of stuff.
Yeah.
And so she was amazing. She put everything together, and she's like, okay, you only need like 3 more classes of just random stuff. And now let's declare your major as, okay, here it is, a master's degree, a Bachelor of Science in Interdisciplinary Studies with a focus on telecommunications and web design with a minor in math.
What?
Here's what this says. I got out. That's what it says. I graduated, but the point is as an entrepreneur, it's not a straight line. It's not linear. It's not linear. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And I never met a true entrepreneur that has this linear conversation. Like, when I was 4, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, right?
Exactly.
It's just like not real.
Yeah.
And I think part of when people come on people's shows, I want to hear the juice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you say that, Heather, because I've had several guests on that say to me, oh, you've got to mention that I have a doctorate in this. I've done that. I'm like, before we get on, I'm like, I just have to tell you, no one really cares. It's not, no offense to you, but they're, maybe your mom cares and your dad, but them listening into you, they just want to know what you can offer of value to them. All your great wisdom and expertise of whatever your doctorate or all the degrees you have, what is it that you can present to them? And the same thing goes with sales, because we're going to talk a little bit about sales today. And when people are like, well, why don't people buy my stuff? Do they need it? Do they want it? Is it something they desire, can use, will make their life better? If not, then you're just bugging them,
No, it's true. I mean, I just came from Chicago. I was speaking at the Small Business Expo in Chicago last week, and my entire presentation was called Sell Like a Boss. And the entire presentation was about making money. And and people thought that I was really interacting with the audience. A lot of them were thinking marketing is sales. I'm like, no. Posting on social media could be placed in marketing. I don't really put it there, but it could be. It's in the moment where a human being votes with their wallet. That is a sale. Mm-hmm. So how do you convert them? The sales is in the conversion. That's not, that's sales. That's not marketing. Marketing go blah, 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 blah. So when you're in a podcast environment, radio environment, my job really, and Christina's job is to bring you guests that you can connect with and that you can say, oh, I can really relate to that. Maybe get a motivation, maybe have a movement. But also if I'm selling my services, which I always am, right? I'm a business coach. So I want you to ultimately as a listener, connect with me and go, I can relate to her. I'm connected to her. I think she can help me in something. She's been there before. She's been through what I'm going through now. I think she's someone that I can ask for help or ask for consulting or ask for coaching and she can help me move to the next level. I want to hire her. I mean, that's ultimately what's going on, right? That I'm the background, and that's authentic though. I mean, I'm truly authentic. There's nothing I'm holding back, right? I want you to work with me. Of course I do. I want it to be a win-win, right? I would love for you to work with me if it's a fit. And if it's not a fit, that's okay. But part of the podcast environment, and you know this, Christina, is people come on. And I don't know about you, this is my experience, and I'm not putting words in your mouth. In my experience, speakers, what I call old school speakers, are the worst.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's odd because they speak so polished on their presentation, but it doesn't translate always into them telling a good story about themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because ultimately how I see this conversation right now is you and I are girlfriends hanging out at Starbucks having a cocktail or Starbucks with cocktail or whatever. Maybe coffee with a Bailey or something. It's a really good Starbucks, right? But we're just having a conversation about our lives and what we do. And then other people get to listen in. That's how I view podcasts versus a speech, right? The old school speaking.
Well, Heather, let me stop real quick because you mentioned something that really just triggered me and got me thinking about how I started. I went to my first mentor had a big lecture, and she was talking about building a business. And I just decided to go because I was thinking of building a business. And I said, let me just go. She started out the presentation with just telling her story in a very honest, like you said, real, authentic way. And she was everything I was at that moment when she got started. She said, well, except that she had a fiance that at the last minute, the engagement broke off and they had to cancel the wedding. That didn't happen for me. But I was having boyfriend problems. My business in corporate wasn't working out. I was overweight. I mean, everything that was happening to her when she first got started was happening to me right now, right here. And I heard her story, and now she was making mid-six figures, not super large, but very nice business for the past several years, making money and actually able to start, to thrive. And I, by the end of the lecture, said, I want to work with her. I need to work with her. It was an absolute necessity. And it all came from the very honest sharing, authentic sharing of the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's true because you connected with her and said, well, she can relate to what I'm going through when I share. Yeah, that's critical. I think that women do a better job than that sometimes than men. That's not personal. Yeah. I just think that we're open to connection versus, I made $3,000 or $30,000 on this one deal. You can't do,
competition. But you mentioned something else that women don't do enough of, and that is, really standing in their power of here's what I am good at and declaring it. Men are very good with that. They'll stand on the rooftop and bat their chest and I'm amazing. But women have a problem with that.
Yeah, so I'll share with you some insight on that because I've experienced that myself. And that is, I think at a young age, if you're born in America and you're raised in America schools, we were taught, I think, women specifically are taught, be nice, share, be nice, share, be nice, share. Don't don't, if I got an A in a test, I'm not walking around going, I got an A, I got an A. They're like, don't be nice, right? Don't tell that to your friends. And then and we're also told what to do all the time. If you need to go to the bathroom, raise your hand, right? All that stuff. And then entrepreneurial world, it's like, go out there and fail. Don't ask for permission. Well, you've had just 12 years, if not more, of training to ask for permission, do the right thing all the time, follow the rules. And then for women specifically, be nice to everybody. You can be a nice girl. Men on that side are more into, well, it's okay. You got a little competition. Go up there and kick his booty. It's okay. Like, be a man. You know what I mean? Like, they get this other side of things. And I think that is detrimental for women in the business sense. And then entrepreneurial world, you literally have to flip all that around. It's very counterintuitive. And so when I talk about inviting people to podcasts, I call it the invitation challenge, right? So here I am. I start inviting myself to podcasts. And think about this. I was born Southern, very Southern ways. My mother was a very Southern woman. And if I didn't get invited to a birthday party, Christina's birthday party, she didn't invite me, then I was crying in the corner. And my mom was like, well, you don't go because you weren't invited. And I'm like, oh, Christina doesn't like me, right? So I'm over there crying. And then in college, if I wasn't invited to a party, I didn't go either. But I would see guys, they didn't care. They would show with a pack of beer and a hot chick, and they didn't care they were invited. They're showing up, right? So I noticed that for myself if I'm going to be out there inviting myself to the party, which is what it is. You have a party, you've got a show, you've got a podcast, you got a world going on here. And I'm over here going, Christina, hey, can you invite me to your party? And you're like, sure, come on in, right? But it's very counterintuitive for women to get out of their head and say, I'm going to approach Christina and say, will you invite me to your party? And that's the part I think women have a really challenging time with.
I was like, that is so, so true, Heather. I mean, when I first got started with sales in particular, I didn't make the close for the first year. I was sitting here like, they said, oh, I love what you have to offer. I can't wait to do consulting services with you. How much do you charge? La, la, la. I'm like, let me send you a brochure and let me know if any of them sound great to you. I'm like, what am I doing? A guy would be like, okay, it's $5,000. We can get started tomorrow. Can I have your credit card? And I could not do that for a year. And it took me, I tell the story in my show in the past, it took me one night with no food in the refrigerator, a guy calling me and talking me into having him work with me for free. And I said, no, it costs XYZ. And he said, no, I'm not paying that. And I said, yes. And I got off, I bawled all night long and said, I'm an idiot, I'm hungry. When am I going to get over myself? And the next 4 calls, I made a sale. But it took me getting over myself to the point where, okay, I'm sick of being hungry. But, you're right. It's absolutely a huge problem for women that they feel like it's not nice to ask for the sale. It's not nice to say it's this much. Let them ask you how much it costs. And if they say, and here's another thing, when you go for an interview and they say, okay, this job pays $45,000, and you're like, okay, I'll take that. A man will be like, oh, that's my starting. Okay, I'll take 55 or 60. Or 70, and this worked out. And so we're not taught to do that. We're like, let's just take what we're given.
Yeah, we're taught to take what's given. We're also taught not to buck the system.
Yeah.
We're taught a lot of things as a girl,
Yes.
to be dependent on others, to support others, not support ourselves first. There's a lot of social narrative conversations, and again, I'm broadening, that are fine. They're fine if you just want to work for a company to actually really work, if you just work for a company. But if you actually want to work in more of an entrepreneurial setting, even real estate, like being a realtor, you've got to really shift that and completely go out of your comfort zone and go out of the familiar and go ask for the sale. Go ask for the money. Say, no, you're going to do business with me. No, you're going to give me $5,000 because I'm worth it. Okay, you don't want it? That's fine. And so when I started putting myself out there in the just podcasting, this is just, me asking for a sale. I languaged it in such a way that I said, I want you for you to consider having me on your show. And here's why. And I would give and it was interesting when I got back. Some people were like, no, and then some people were like, well, I have a my favorite one. We have a sports show. And I go, great. I could talk about how business is like sports. And of course, I'm going to talk about how amazing the Cowboys are, because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, but do not ask me anything beyond that. I know the owner does it. So they laughed. They had me on, right? They're like, yeah, this is actually great. This is funny. This is awesome. So
it's different. Yeah.
It's different. But I started to really allow myself to say yes to anything. And that was a key versus, oh, well, you don't have a show on this, so I'm not going to come on. I'm like, go for the experience.
Yeah.
Go for the experience. I was actually on a show too about, the whole show was about actors. Like they really focus on actors and actresses. And I said, they first didn't want me on. I said, look, actors and actresses are solo entrepreneurs. They have to learn how to promote themselves and sell themselves all the time. Right? Why would you not want a salesperson on there? Well, we're artistic. And I'm like, okay, but look at the good actors. They're constantly selling themselves, constantly. Right? They have to sell themselves to sponsors, sell themselves to the movie house, sell themselves to the talent agency, sell themselves to the director, the producer, the Hollywood, everything. They're constantly pushing themselves out there. If not, we forget about them and they're not placed in roles. So that's what the same thing with entrepreneurship is allowing yourself to say, hey, invite me to the party. Invite myself to the party and be okay with it.
And here's the cool thing you mentioned is that you went on everything and said yes, but by pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, because the first time I was asked to speak at an aviation event, now I've been flying with my partner who is a pilot of 27 years. I am or was a student pilot. I've never gotten my pilot license, but I've had a lot of experiences that can be translated into the business world. And I had a blog called Transformation Through Flight. And basically I talked about the lessons learned in flight that could be applied to business. And anyway, they invited me to come and talk to a bunch of pilots about my experiences. And I was nervous because I'm like, I'm not a pilot. What if they rake me over the coals when I talk about, being in the cockpit and stuff that happened to me? They're gonna be like, that's not how it went down, because I'm a pilot. And the reception was awesome, actually. But it took pushing myself beyond my comfort zone to realize this might not be my audience per se, but we can definitely find ways to relate and share information that can help people, even if we're not in the same, realm per se.
Right. Yeah. It's the same industry. I mean, I've been on a lawyer show. That one was interesting. I've been on a pet show where they focus on people in the pet industry. They're business owners in the pet industry. Pet Life Radio. That's a good one. I mean, I've been on anything because I feel that I can always step into other people's world. I like stepping into other people's industries, right? Because they're not so closed off, right? If we've been in an industry for a long time, let's say if you're a dentist or a chiropractor or whatever, you start to hang around other chiropractors, or other dentists, or other vets, and then they start to say all this negative, oh, this can't happen, this doesn't happen, this can't. You start to believe it's true. Versus getting out of your head and into someone else's industry and how you can apply what you've learned over here in their world and vice versa. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it actually broadens, like I say to my pilot boyfriend, he said, I don't want to go to that business networking event. There's no pilots there. I said, Brian, pilots have businesses sometimes, and they do leave the airport from time to time because you've got to go outside your realm. That doctors just don't live in hospitals. They go out and do other things, and pilots leave the airport. So to realize that, and say you go to a whole room full of business people, who's to say that maybe they don't know other pilots? That it's really, people know people. And I'd say at least everyone knows, even if you're not a huge networker, at least 100 people. So there's a potential of 100 people times whoever's in the room.
That's interesting. That's actually really interesting. Well, pilots, I laugh because my I had a gentleman I was with a couple of years ago, and he actually was a very successful entrepreneur. He was a pilot. He was actually a very successful entrepreneur, real estate investor. So get out there.
Yeah. Open the realm of your environment and let's see what happens. And also, as you said today, some of the top points that you mentioned, really don't be afraid to stretch yourself, to really put yourself in different situations, and to be okay as a woman to say what you're good at and to talk about your accomplishments, not in a way that's braggadocious, but just in a way that says, hey, I'm here, I'm amazing, and here's how, here's who I am.
Here's how I push back, though, Christina.
Tell me.
Is that I'd push back and say it's okay to be braggadocious. Because when we feel we're being braggadocious, other people might probably see we're not. Just being confident. So we might feel, I'm being too much. But you know what? You're probably not. You're probably just owning your power.
Oh, you're so right, girl. That's funny. I was at, many years ago, girl, you're so right. I was at a business meeting, a corporate business meeting many years ago when I worked in corporate. And they said, okay, these accounts look so amazing. They're like gone. They used to be here and we had a bunch of money on them that we had to collect, and they're all like gone. What happened? I was like, I collected them. And they just laughed because like, I came in here and kicked butt. That's what I did. It's all gone.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do that. So you are completely right. I don't want us to leave here though without everyone finding out how they can work with you, find out more about you, and get your awesome new book coming up.
Yes, absolutely. I love the opportunity to potentially work with you. If you feel like you're an entrepreneur and you want to take your business to another level, you may be getting on your own way. I would love to invite you to consider to be on a call with me. We can talk about it. Here's my information. You can go to heatherhavenwood.com, and upper right-hand corner says work with Heather, and just get on a phone call with me. But I do want to leave your listeners with a little gift, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sir, so I have a book, The Sexy Boss, and you can find it on Amazon, but I also wanted to give you as a gift 3 free audio chapters of my book, Sexy Boss, and here's how you can get it. One of 2 ways. You can either pick up your cell phone here, your cell phone I'm sure you're listening to on, and text the word sexy to 72,000. Text the word sexy to 72000, and you can get the free chapters right on your book audio, and you can listen to them right away. Or you can go to sexybossinc.com, sexybossinc.com. Either one.
Oh, this has been so fabulous. Well, I thank you so much for coming to share your great wisdom today, Heather, on Savvy Business Radio. Thank you so much.
Think back to when you started your business. You had a dream. You had boundless passion. You wanted to create something different. There was a problem, and you were going to solve it. Being an independent retailer is rewarding, but challenging, and there's a lot more to it than you ever imagined. Well, Lightspeed is here to help. With 45,000 customers around the world, we've helped countless entrepreneurs nail the business side of retail so they can spend time doing what they're passionate about. Join us for a 6-week speaker series featuring a curated panel of experts that will answer some of retail's toughest questions and give you the edge you need to stay competitive. You have a passion, and we have a passion for technology inspired by you. Visit lightspeedhq.com/speaker-series to learn more.